Hello and welcome to the Profit-ology process crash course. I am thrilled that you've requested this information because it is not unusual for this to be a game changer for my clients. And look, one of two things is going to happen when you listen to this. Number one, you're going to have the same reaction my thousands of students have had, and you're going to say to yourself, "Ugh, I wish I had learned this when I started my business. It would have saved me so much time, money, and aggravation," right? That light bulb is going to go off and you're not going to ever want to go back. Or the second thing that might happen is your reptilian brain will kick in and you'll enter that fight or flight stage, right? And I get it. Maybe you're used to doing business one way and for the most part, it's been working out, right? And the thought of changing, it sounds scary and like a lot of work because it's uncertain, right? Or maybe you're one of those people that loves working 80 hours a week and your business is your life and having extra free time and money is just honestly not that important to you, right? If that's you and you're addicted to the adrenaline of the hustle and grind, what I'm about to present to you probably won't resonate with you, and that's okay. But for the rest of you, I think that you're going to be pretty excited with what I'm about to share with you. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kelly O'Neill. And for the last 25 years, whether it be working for Fortune 500 corporations, tech startups, or even after I started my own consulting business in 2001, where I expanded into serving entrepreneurs and medical practices, I've specialized in one thing. I solve complex positioning and business strategy problems that are keeping companies and their owners from three things. Number one, achieving the market position that they need. Number two, achieving the profit that they deserve. And three, achieving the experience that they desire in growing their companies and serving their clients, right? Essentially what they say to me is, "Kelly, you make the crazy go away." However, it always seems easier to solve other people's problems, right? So imagine my frustration as my business started to grow rapidly when I hit some of the chaos-creating, profit-sucking bumps in the road, and I was too close to the problem to figure out what the heck was going on, right? Like you, I am gifted at the work I do in the world. However, running a high-performance business sustainably is a whole different ballgame. And I had what I like to call my very rude awakening in 2012 when I realized that if I did not learn how to step up as the CEO of my business, lead my team to grow my business without me, and create systems and processes to ensure it was done to the standard that I desire for the client experience that I require for my clients, that I was never going to have what I truly wanted from my business, which is time and financial freedom, right? I needed to become better at running my business than I was at providing my services. So I started seeking, right? And what I quickly realized is that in the entrepreneurial world, about 98% of the trainings are focused on marketing and sales, getting more clients, and eliminating mindset barriers to you getting more clients, which, don't get me wrong, I think it's super important, but it's definitely not the entire picture. I'm a pretty smart cookie, so I knew I wasn't going to figure this stuff out on my own, and I also knew that that was the long, expensive, hard way. So I started taking trainings and working with various mentors and different programs and events, and I learned a lot. However, at a certain point, something changed, and the way that I was going about doing business was moving me further and further and further away from the goal that I desired of having a high profit, high freedom business. And the irony was, the more clients that I got and the more money that my company made, the more problems I had. Not to mention, and this is the ironic part, the less money I was personally keeping and the less freedom and enjoyment I had as well. Does any of this sound familiar to you? What I was finding for myself is the deeper that I got into following these methods, the more that my business became a time and energy sucking monster, machine, as well as a money eating monster. And I know I'm not alone in this. So if this is you and you've been able to create success in your business, but you know you're working too hard and you're not gaining the traction you desire, you are in the right place. And today I am going to show you a different way. Several years ago, I had actually heard a statistic that I thought was shocking to me. And I researched it and I've asked around to various different people who are in this market of professional development. And it was very, very consistent in every source. And it's that this. 94% of entrepreneurs are not achieving success with the trainings and programs they're investing in. 94%. And as someone who is a problem solver, that immediately piqued my interest, right? So my clients were definitely having better results than that. My private clients were having exceptional results. However, I did notice that there's a fair amount of drop-off in our training programs with clients who have either, sometimes it's because they're never opening the trainings or they didn't finish them. So I got really curious about exactly what was going on and why this was a problem across the entire industry of professional development. And I had a very bright light bulb go off. Okay. I think it's going to happen for you too. So here's the old way of professional development. And for some of you, it's likely the current way you're experiencing it. I get it because that is what is readily out there. And I see it every single day. I have attended countless trainings, events, and programs. I speak on stages all over the world. And just like you, every day, I am being pummeled with messages on social media and email and in seminars about how to build and grow my company. And it can be very confusing. And it can also kind of start to look all the same, right? Like use webinars to 10x your business, or how to get 10,000 Facebook followers on social and sell them, or, Facebook ads, podcasting, writing books, yada, yada, yada. And there's all these messages coming at you, and it's all the way to get the result you want, right? That's how they're marketing. But I also started to notice something about the way we were receiving this information, right? And it's in pieces. And the expectation then is entrepreneurs like us are supposed to figure out on their own how to put together all these different pieces to make it work for them. And that's the pattern out there, right? So I'm going to share with you the experience I had and what my clients have shared with me about the way that this current method is coming together for entrepreneurs, and see if this resonates with you. So the first thing is there's a lot of messages out there about you've got to develop this hustle and grind mindset, right? Like you got to go, go, go. If you want to be successful, you got to rise and grind. You got to get it done. In fact, I remember seeing this quote over and over again, that entrepreneurs are willing to work 80 hours a week just so that they don't have to work 40, right? Now, maybe that works for some people, but that is not the type of business my clients and I want to create, right? So in this model, depending on, which training you go into, initially the first thing that usually happens is they're wanting to set goals, right? So in any program or training you go to, they want us to set goals, which is just enough clarity. I call it the just enough clarity model. It's just enough clarity to be dangerous and get into action. But when, so like for me, when I was specifically going through all this training to build my business, the message was, hey, look, like you need to build $1 million business. Like that is your goal, right? Like if you want to be taken seriously, you need to build $1 million business. And I was like, okay, goal 1, check, got it. Right. And then the next question is, what do you do in your business? Like what, give me your elevator pitch. And luckily I had a very specific path. And some people do, like if they're coming into programs, like they're a lawyer, they're a doctor, a bookkeeper, an accountant. But if they don't, what I've kind of noticed as a trend is it seems like 95% of people are kind of end up being ushered toward a coaching business or teaching digital courses. And they're being ushered in that direction, whether or not they're qualified or trained or not. It's a really popular business model right now, but I see some problems with that, but that's for another recording, right? So now we've got these goals and we're pumped, right? And we're excited. And now we think, all right, the question comes, how do I do it? Enter the blueprint. I cannot tell you how many blueprints I have for various things, right? And the great thing about a blueprint is it gives you kind of a step-by-step map. The bad thing about a blueprint is it's not able to account for different skill sets and assets. Like, as an example, are you someone who has a well-recognized brand? Are you someone who has a big list of people to communicate with, right? So it doesn't really take into account those assets, and it often leads people down the path to creating cookie-cutter identical businesses, marketing, and solutions. And the problem with that is it really puts you directly in the lion's mouth of market saturation and makes it harder for you to do business, right? And then, but again, we're not really dealing with that because it's like, all right, you guys, you got the blueprint. Now go get into action. This is where our hustle and grind gets kicked in on high force, right? Like, you don't even need to think about it. Just do it. Use the templates, hack the funnels, copy the competition, hustle and grind, just get into action. This is where it all goes wonky for the 94% of people who are failing for a very good reason. And this is what I identified when that light bulb went off. Most people are not training in just one thing. A lot of people are not just in one program, which also is part of the challenge, right? They're operating from multiple blueprints, and those blueprints don't all go together seamlessly. I speak to entrepreneurs on almost a daily basis, no exaggeration, who are totally confused about, like, how do I invest my time, my energy, my money? There's so much conflicting advice. And then they're getting all these messages, right? Like, you need to build your social media following. You need a sales webinar funnel. What? You haven't written a book yet? No podcast? You need to get on that. And the list goes on and on and on. So how do you know which tactic is the right one for you? Well, the truth is you don't. If you ask the gentleman who's selling podcasting, what do you think he might tell you, right? If you're asking your buddy who has a sales webinar, what do you think they might say? Or your mentor, they're likely going to tell you to follow the blueprint in the way that created success for them, right? So do you see the problem starting to arise with this model? So if you're naturally good at marketing and sales, and let's just say you stumble into a model that works for you, it's going to be amazing until it isn't, because you didn't build any infrastructure in to handle the growth, which was my tragedy. Either way, for many people, you've kind of worked yourself into a situation where it's not exactly what you want. You kind of start to get this feeling of like, something's not quite right. Like, maybe I could do better, or maybe there's something better out there, or, maybe you've heard about, another program. And so you get into that because at this point you're kind of just like, well, I'll try the next thing, right? The current way of teaching entrepreneurs how to build businesses is really dependent upon a lot of doing, right? And it's also dependent on kind of a blueprint focus that is not customized to the way that you as the entrepreneur do business best, right? This is what I call the work really hard method. It is based on getting more clients, right? It's not about necessarily fostering long-term relationships with clients. It's very tactical, and it's marketing and sales driven, right? So get the next client, get the next one, get the next one. And creating a business this way has several challenges. Number one, it's just simply not scalable, right? Most people do not want to hustle and grind forever. I know I don't. It can create cash flow challenges, either due to the investment to keep up this type of paradigm, or because it isn't a match to the way that you do business. So it's never going to perform as well as it does for, say, your mentor, because you have different skill sets and assets. It's also transactional based, right? Like, and what I see a lot of times is that people are pissing off their clients because they don't have a solid infrastructure. They don't have a service plan. Their customer experience isn't designed, which means that you're constantly having to go out and acquire new customers, which is way more expensive. Ultimately, you end up working way harder than you needed to. You're going to get really burned out, and it's really expensive. Okay, I know this because I learned this the hard way. This is exactly what happened to me and countless of my clients and students before they found the Profit-ology process. And people get stuck in this cycle for years. Even really, really, really smart people get stuck. I know I did, right? Following this model, I ended up building a very high revenue, minuscule profit business where I had so many clients. I was literally in appointments all day long, every day, 5 days a week, until I was totally burned out and I hated my business. I had no idea how to hire, manage, or lead a team. So I had a shitty team. They were dropping balls right and left. I had no processes, no systems, because I didn't have time to make them, right? So after a long day of coaching or traveling on the road, I had to put on my janitorial uniform to clean up the messes that were created during the day. It was awful. So when I realized for myself that this was really not working for me, and frankly, it really wasn't working very much for anyone I was in conversation with, I shut it all down. I took a step back and I went back to my corporate roots and I re-engineered the process. And that is where the Profit-ology process was born. I was my first case study. And funny story, my accountant actually called me in the middle of tax season, which, you know, when that phone rings from your accountant in the middle of the tax season, you're like, oh God, what? And he said, no. I said, what's wrong? I'm like, how much do I owe? And he's like, no, actually, he's like, yes, you do owe. But hey, good thing, congratulations. This is the most profitable your business has ever been. And then he called me again the next year and said, I can't believe it. You're on a roll. I need to know what you're doing and why there was such a drastic change in your business, right? And then I started putting my clients through the process, and we consistently saw really phenomenal results, both financially as well as in their happiness levels. So we're spending in this methodology 6 to 12 months working really smart to set up a solid business foundation that's designed to continually pay you more and more each year while you're able to have more and more time freedom. In my most profitable years, I've worked less than I ever have before. It sets you up, the Profit-ology process sets you up to have your business work for you instead of you working for your business. And I know what your brain must be thinking right now, right? Like, how? Well, the first thing that makes this so unique is in this process, it is individualized for every single person, right? I developed the process based on a way to very strategically scale and build sustainable businesses that are not only highly profitable, but are customized to flow with the way you work best. That is where we start. In fact, we took about 6 months and designed an assessment that helps you figure out just that, the way that you are going to work the best in your business to create and accelerate profit, and also so that you know the pitfalls that you could experience and how to avoid them. I don't believe that there's a one-size-fits-all model. So we show you and we guide you in building a model that's not only going to work best, not only for you and your unique skill sets, but also we take into account the kind of lifestyle that you desire. Not everyone wants the same lifestyle, and that's perfect, right? But you need to take those things into account before you start building your business. So again, the business is intentionally designed to allow the CEO, you, to work your way out of the day-to-day operations of the business, if that's what you'd like to do, and build a high-performance team to build the business for you. In the Profit-ology process, we're inviting you to promote yourself to the position of CEO and run your business like a business. And over time, we're developing like a solid business foundation that's going to naturally handle your scaling business. And at the same time, you're gaining and serving new clientele and returning clientele. This process is what I call the thinking model of doing business. We follow a ready, aim, fire approach. We think things through before we take action, which ultimately eliminates a lot of wasted time, money, and energy. One of my favorite things to now say to my clients is stop, think, profit. The other unique thing about the Profit-ology process is it follows what's called critical path. So there is a path to building a business that allows for it to be successful and sustainable and scalable. And the analogy that I use when I'm speaking from stage is, you know, for you ladies, like you wouldn't get out of bed in the morning, put on your makeup, do your hair, squirt on your perfume, get dressed, and then jump in the shower, right? That's insane. Or you gentlemen, you would not, you know, put on your jeans, then put on your underwear, and then, you know, put on your jacket and then your t-shirt over it and walk out the door, right? Ridiculous. There's actually a order to doing these things. So, you know, you're going to take a shower first, then you're going to get dressed, then you're going to, you know, however that looks for you. It's very much the same in business, except for people are step skipping all the time, right? In kind of the old model, it's really, really tactical. And then often because we're duct taping various things together from different trainings, and we don't actually have the level of clarity we need in place, and we definitely don't have an overarching business strategy, we're constantly unintentionally putting the cart before the horse. So we're working on things we shouldn't even be working on way before it's time to be working on them. And when that happens, when we're step skipping the most important foundational pieces of building a sustainable business, we're doing that just so we can get into action and start doing, right? But the problem with that is that's what ultimately leads to the massive frustration, the spinning of wheels, and the wasting of valuable time, money, and energy. So let me be really clear. You will never out-hustle a bad strategy in the long term. In the Profit-ology process, the first thing we do is we help you get very, very, very clear on 3 levels. Number 1, we want you to have absolute life clarity, right? Your business should work for your life, not the other way around. You should not be working for your business, right? So in order to be able to create that, we got to get really clear on what you want life to look like for you. When do you want to retire? How many months a year do you want to work? How many months of vacation do you want to work? Do you want to be able to work in different countries? Do you want to be off by 3 to be home with your kids? It depends, right? It's different for everyone. The point here is we want to be very clear on what you want your life to look like and feel like. The next piece that we get clear on is your business. And there's lots of questions there too. You know, do you want a huge, big business corporation that you're going to sell? Do you want a small practice? Do you want a huge, do you love the idea of having a massive team? Do you like the idea of a few small people or maybe just one person, right? Do you want to work from home? Do you want to be able to work remotely? What exactly does the business look like, right? Do you want to work in the business, or do you want to make sure that everyone else is doing the services? There's a lot of questions here that we need to get clear on. And then finally, how much is it going to cost you to have that life that you desire? So how much money does your business need to make in order to pay you what you need to have the life that you desire? And again, how much is it going to cost you to have that business perform in that way? Once we have this what I call the trifecta of clarity, then we're going to move on to building a strategy to achieve that result. Now, we're not going to run around anymore spinning our wheels, right? Trying to throw spaghetti at a wall and see if it works. We're not going to be having you do things that are not in alignment with your natural genius and the natural way in which you work, because it's really, why work harder than you need to? We want to work smart, right? So in the next stage, what I'm looking at, does the business have enough cash to create the vision? If not, then what we do is we help them get cash, right? And there's lots of different ways to do that. If we're running a cash infusion plan, right, it's done very, very differently than a long-term business strategy. It's very focused on direct contact marketing and sales, where you're specifically offering a high-ticket solution directly to specific audience members, right? It's not going to require that you have some big fancy brand. It doesn't require you've got a ton of marketing materials. There are a few requirements to creating a cash infusion plan that puts an extra 6 figures in your bank account, depending on the type of business you desire, right? We are not using any long-term marketing tactics here. We're not podcasting. 99% of the time, we're not doing webinars. We are definitely not writing a book. You know, we are running a short, strategic campaign aimed at creating cash quickly. Once we have all the cash flow that you need, we move on to the business strategy. Why? Because doing business that way is not sustainable. It's very action-oriented. It's very labor-intense, right? And if you don't strategically design this cash infusion plan to become a springboard to the next level, you are going to keep yourself stuck in what I call the roller coaster income syndrome cycle. That was a tongue twister, but you're going to get stuck there where you're constantly revving up, you're creating a bunch of cash, then you're serving your clients, you've got nothing to scale the business strategically in place, and then all of a sudden your clients start to drop off, your income starts to drop off, and then what happens? You got to do it all over again, and you can repeat this cycle for years and years and years and years. Doesn't this kind of sound like the old way of doing business a little bit? So that's a great way to create a cash infusion, but it's not sustainable long-term. You're going to hear me use the word strategy a lot, because that is the linchpin of the Profit-ology process. Strategy is so incredibly important for 2 reasons. Number 1, we need to make sure that you have the business model that's most effective for you. But in addition to that, we also need to make sure that you are positioned properly in your industry in a way that is in alignment with your unique genius and that results in making your competition irrelevant. Let me give you an example. When people think of cola, right? Who do you think of? I mean, you're probably either thinking Pepsi or Coke, right? Or when you think of tissues, who do you think of? Kleenex, right? So we want to create that type of position for you in your market where you are no longer competing with everyone else who's doing the same thing, especially if you're in an oversaturated market. If you're not standing out, you're invisible. And so once we have that positioning strategy, as well as your business model strategy, we're going to move on to developing a brand. Now, contrary to what you might have been taught, I mean, I could teach a full day course on the misinformation out there about branding. A logo and a website does not create a brand. Neither does just having, similar colors, right? Those are all tactical components of a brand. So when we develop a brand, we're developing a scalable asset that represents your promise to move your clients for a promise to your clients for years to come. So we've got to get that business strategy in a way that when we're moving into developing a brand, it really allows you to differentiate yourself in your marketplace. You can't create a personalized strategy that accelerates your results without clarity. And you can't create an effective brand without a strategy. So we're building up this business and we're building up the foundation to scale with ease for years to come. Once your brand is developed, we want you to start looking at what the long-term marketing tactics, right, and campaigns that we're going to be utilizing that are in direct alignment with the way you work best and the work you enjoy the most, right? And the tactics, and choosing those tactics that are most effective for your business. Here's the good news. You don't need to be doing 10 different marketing things. Unless you have some massive team and a very, very sophisticated business, you need one, and definitely no more than 3 vital marketing tactics that you are going to execute very strategically to hit your profit goals and build your brand. And remember, these tactics are constantly changing. So I remember we used to, I'm dating myself now. We used to fax people. It was all the rage, right? Your strategy and foundation is solid for years. Tactics change every, 6 to 12 months. So once we've got the marketing rolling, you're going to have some sales leads come in, and we're going to need a process to handle those as well, right? And it's not just about making the sale. Remember, the Profit-ology process is not a transactional business process. We want to make sure that you provide such a phenomenal experience that your clients refer you to everyone they know and become your best brand ambassadors. The type of sales strategy and process we use depends on you and your specific model. You're going to hear me say that a lot. And it depends because there's no one-size-fits-all strategy that's effective. Remember, that's what we're helping you create in this process. When you're doing the sales process, it could be a conversation directly with you. Maybe it's with your team. Maybe they're coming to a live event to hear you. It could be that you're selling something online. We need to identify whatever that specific process is that works specifically for you and puts the process of turning those marketing leads into clients for you on autopilot. Now, here's the next one. Part of the Profit-ology process is tracking your results. One of my mentors in the corporate world used to say, you cannot manage it if you do not measure it. In our process, we create a dashboard of what we call key performance indicators, KPIs. So we know what's working well, what needs improvement, and what we need to let go of. So we keep measuring, and then we make it better and better. We don't just randomly try something once and go, oh, that didn't really work. I'm giving up and I'm going to start something else, right? Let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. We stick with the strategy and we execute with intention. And finally, this is my favorite part, and it used to so not be my favorite part, but now it is my favorite part. We automate everything we possibly can, from our marketing to our sales, to our client onboarding, to operations, to tracking, to team training, literally everything we can. This is where your ticket to freedom in your business is. This is where you're going to be able to work yourself out of the business. We're going to set up processes and procedures for your business that make sure that your team can handle everything that you desire without you being there, and do it in a way that you want it done to make the biggest impact on your business. So even if you don't have a small a team right now, we are still going to create the processes and procedures and automate all of this, because eventually you're going to have at least one assistant working with you, right? And we're going to go through this entire process. And then at the end of the year, right, we're looking at your strategic objectives. We are looking at your KPIs. Maybe it's the end of the quarter, maybe it's the end of the year, whatever time frame you're looking at. And then we're going to ask ourselves a question. Do we want to up level? Do we want to open up the next market? Do we want to add additional service offerings? Do we want to, what's next? And then this is the beauty of it. We go back and we do the same path again, right? And if that's the case, let's get really clear. It's like, are we still in alignment with what you want for your life? And maybe some things have changed. Maybe you've had some priority differences. Is this still the type of business that you desire? How much money do you need to create for this next level? Do you need to alter the business strategy? Maybe tweak it a little bit. Does the brand still work, or do we need to add on or enhance it? What marketing are we going to need for this next level? Are the tactics that we're using still effective at this juncture, right? And so the Profit-ology process starts again in our journey to the next level. So I know that's been a lot of information in a very, very short and quick overview on the Profit-ology process, but I wanted to give you enough so that you could make a decision, right? Which way do you want to go in your business? Right? Are you wanting to start working smarter, or is the old way working for you? We're consistently rolling out new trainings based on our member requests, and we have consulting programs that obviously support the integration of this concept into your business. So if you'd like to stay in touch with us and learn more about it, I'd invite you to join the movement. You can subscribe below, right? Just get in touch with us on our messenger, and we'll just let you know when we have different offerings, different trainings, different tools coming out, anything that we think we can help you in integrating the Profit-ology process into your business. Also, I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know what you think about this process and how you can execute it in your business. What blew your mind? What questions do you have? Shoot me a message through Messenger, and we will definitely get back to you. I hope that you have found this information as valuable as my other clients, and I want to thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Until next time.